This video is going to be a live stream to talk about the coverage choices and the schematic options that Aaron Glenn has out there that I think is a little bit of a wider net than what we've seen so far in 2024. Nonetheless, the choices that Aaron Glenn is making in terms of coverages and that Dan Campbell, of course, is approving, that path is working. It is sustainable from a win percent perspective. The Lions are scoring significantly more points than they're allowing. They're allowing 20.5 points per game so far in 2024, which is 10th in the league. I think that most Lions fans would probably be happy with that. But I think, in my opinion, you can get that number down to 18, 18 and a half, somewhere in that area over the course of the season. It's going to be harder to push that down unless you get some anomalous game whereby you only allow 3 points or perhaps get a shutout. They've allowed 1,100 passing yards through 4 games. Sounds like a lot, of course, with the 395 that was given up to Geno Smith last week. Nonetheless, it's only 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions allowed. I covered a lot of this in a film study video that I put out a bit about Amik Robertson yesterday. We're going to cover multiple concepts that they're trying to play and talk about the main coverage element, which is the outside corners, Carlton Davis III, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, the nickel/slot corner, and then Brian Branch, who's back this week, thankfully, and Kirby Joseph, who has 3 interceptions. I'll go through the film and basically going to cover what I think is, to be honest with you, at times an over-reliance on man coverage. It's really stressing Arnold and Davis III, quite obviously. They're a big part of the reason why I think the Lions have 11 defensive penalties from a coverage standpoint, 8 defensive pass interferences, and 3 holds. We're going to get the film started here. You guys have a significant time delay, to be honest with you, in terms of me showing the film and your comments showing up. So just be aware of that. If you do have a question, what I think I'm going to do is after each segment, I will stop and then take questions about the coverages that I'm showing and some of the comments that I've made. So first things first, the types of routes that the Lions see kind of flows from the coverage choices they make. They're generally playing a lot of man. We're going to have film from multiple games here, just so you know. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the target coming across the field here. In trail is Terrion Arnold. But you're going to see at least 4 or 5 plays in a row like this whereby you've got a possible mesh, meaning one low drag from one side of the field and another one from the opposite side. They're trying to basically create a pick, rub, shield, whatever you want to call it. As an aside, Jack Campbell, it's not the first time he's done this season. He's done it 3 or 4 times. Kind of hammers an underneath crosser to help out his guys in man and disrupt the whole damn thing. If you guys are not getting audio, please let me know. Streaming software, I would say, is a little bit unprepared or underpowered, excuse me. All right, this one is obviously a bad example in terms of the way the outcome, the production that the Cardinals get. Arnold is not on the field. You're getting a man beater from all the way down the bottom side of the screen. And Carlton Davis III, I think, is looking for help from Brian Branch that is just too late and lagging behind. Ends up being a 10-yard touchdown to Harrison from Kyler Murray. When you're playing so much man and making it, I guess, predictable for the offense, they, by route definition, can open up or vacate certain parts of the field, and that's what I'm trying to illustrate here with the first couple of plays that I showed you. The first one had like 2 underneath drags, mesh, and then now here you've got 2 deeper crossing routes, and that entire side of the field up here where Harrison catches the football is absolutely vacated. Just a lot of space that's created by the man defensive structure. Am I saying they shouldn't be playing man at all? No. I am saying, or I'm wondering, speculating, if perhaps they could show man a little bit more and then play zone more often. Now, this one's a big one. One of Onwuzurike's 3 half sacks on the year. It's obviously man. You're getting the same exact concept that I described earlier. Underneath drag. It's a little bit later developing, but you can see 88 is trying to pick the defender that is guarding Mike Evans, Carlton Davis III. So I don't know what other people talk about or what your perspective is. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. I do think there's times where Aaron Glenn could be a little bit more multiple. Nonetheless, like I said, it is working despite the gaudy numbers in terms of passing yards allowed, 1,100 through 4 games. And you're getting ready to go up against Dak Prescott, who is a guy who is going to attempt big throws, particularly in the fourth quarter, if and when his team is trailing. I think it's going to be a really good game against the Cowboys, just like last year. Hopefully, the result turns out different. So 3rd and 10. Rams pretty much know what they're going to get. Arnold, man on Cup. Route ends up being like a climb concept, and then he kind of wants to bring it back vertical right before the top of the numbers. Stafford throws it a little deeper than perhaps he was expecting. Ends up being incomplete against Arnold. I think Arnold and Davis are obviously the best 2 outside corners. Win Lee, if you have audio, please let me know in the comment section. They're obviously their 2 best outside corners. They are being stressed a lot. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious when you look at the amount of defensive pass interference and holding calls that are there. Doesn't mean that they can't play man. It just means that maybe you have to be a little bit more selective or intelligent about when and how often you're playing it. This concept is something that I covered this in the Amik Robertson video yesterday, that they try to do often, and they're not the only team that does so. Getting an in-breaking route in man. This is Robertson against Robinson, Demarcus Robinson, who played for the Ravens a couple of years ago. He is releasing this to Branch. Now, Branch doesn't want to just immediately drive on this because he doesn't know at what depth Robinson's going to make his turn. Is he going to go like that, which is essentially what we get, or bring it more vertical, kind of like the route that you saw Cooper Kupp run just a moment ago? Branch has to drive on it a little late, and as such, on this 3rd and 5, it ends up being a completion for 6 yards. I think these guys can play man. I do wonder about in some of the playoff situations against the best teams in the league, is Aaron Glenn going to go to a little bit more zone or perhaps match principles at times? Another man matchup where you're getting an inside release, and I think Arnold is trying to allow the safety to take this over, Joseph, and he does not. They just don't seem to be as clean in these reactions as other teams that I've seen that play a lot of man. Arnold is certainly physically capable of being closer to Robinson than he is. Now, there's also pressure on Stafford, unfortunately, not able to complete that sack. And Kirby Joseph, I think, sees that. So instead of matching the route going across like he should be, he had his eyes in the backfield a little bit too much. And so he didn't take over that route by Robinson like Arnold expected him to. And you can see the reaction by those guys after the play. It's quite obvious what Arnold was expecting. With an in-breaking route there, he's thinking that Joseph's going to take that over. And if you did get concept like this, then theoretically Arnold could peel off and help with that other deep crosser. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It's not the only way to defend it. It's just an option. It's one of the things the Lions do. And in this case, I think they've had 3 different times this year where that wasn't picked up by the safety, number 1 or number 2. It was picked up a little bit too late. All right, another concept that's been used a lot besides in-breaking routes, which we've talked about, the little drags, we've talked about over concept, and or the route that Kupp ran against Arnold for the incompletion, kind of an over that sometimes turns into a climb, which is a little bit more vertical. Fades, whether it's a slot fade, an outside fade against man, it's a concept that the quarterback can throw out there, low risk to a certain degree, because it's not like the DB is going to be able to make an interception on it. I think Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn are comfortable with the route concepts that teams are running because they know the offense knows that they're going to get so much man. It kind of limits them to a certain set or certain type of routes. In-breaking routes, like I've talked about so far ad nauseum. Fade concepts, this one's there to Marvin Harrison Jr. against Brian Branch, who I think is having a fantastic season so far. It ends up being incomplete, but you get the idea. Against man, if they know it's man, there's certain fade concepts, particularly the slot fade, that just kind of open up an area of the field because you're getting a stop route by number 1. So this corner, because he's also locked up in man, is not able to fall off and help at all. And even though it goes incomplete in this instance, you can see that the space is there for the quarterback to throw it onto, particularly for a big-bodied receiver with long arms like Marvin Harrison Jr. Seattle took advantage of their over-reliance on man defense. You guys are getting audio, please let me know. Like I said, my streaming software sucks at this point. So this was kind of a quick fade, if you will. Carlton Davis III has no help. He's got no help at all here to the inside or the outside. Should he overreact this much to DK's little stab? No, he should not. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Chunk, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Obviously, he should not react so much. Having said that, there's no help on the other side. So DK Metcalf has a two-way go. DK Metcalf could run the slant. He's got a huge frame, long arms. He could run the drag, which we've already talked about so far. As this case, he stabs to the inside. Carlton Davis III definitely overreacts. And then a quick fade up the sideline. Geno Smith hits him for 30 yards. Very fortunate that it wasn't a touchdown. Of course, I think they scored on the very next play. I do wonder, speculate, if at times the Lions need to be more aware of the matchups that they've got. So, like, for example, I think Carlton Davis III competed against DK Metcalf. I think he competed from the standpoint he made DK work hard. Having said that, go ahead and help him out on certain plays. This is a 2nd and 8. It's very short-sighted and easy for me to say, hey, why don't they just go ahead and double him over there? Yes, I think they should double a little bit more often. Yes, I think they should allocate a little more resources to stopping a star player. And in fact, I think that's what you're going to have to do this weekend against CeeDee Lamb at times, although the dynamic between him and Dak Prescott is obviously very unusual. Besides intentional fades, sometimes the underthrown balls, which the quarterbacks do that on purpose sometimes as well, because if it's man, they recognize it's going to be very difficult for the DB to turn his back. When do you turn your back? When do you turn to look for the football? Well, you turn it when the receiver shows hands, or you turn it when you hear ball, or whatever the case may be. It's a difficult thing. It's an easy thing for us to sit here and say, hey, Terrion Arnold's got to just turn his back and play the ball. Sure, when? Tell me when. Because what's going to happen is you, and myself included, are going to say when you should turn your back on a certain play. It's different based on the concept. It's different timing based on the location on the field, the width on the field. They don't know the type of throw, whether it's a lofted throw, one that's on a line. Why not? Because their back is turned, because they're playing man. An incredible back shoulder throw here to DK Metcalf up at the top side of the screen, again, matched up against Carlton Davis III. I think it goes down for like a 20 or 23-yard gain early in the game against the Seahawks. In this case, Carlton Davis III happens to be taking more of a zone turn. So if you're not sure what a zone turn is, he's got his chest in towards the middle of the field, eyes obviously on the quarterback, back or butt is pointed towards the sideline. That's a zone turn. Man turn would be the opposite. So man turn would be if on this vertical release by DK, if he took inside position and turned this way to run with it. So basically his back ended up towards the middle of the field and or his back pointed towards the quarterback with his face or chest oriented at DK Metcalf and or at the sideline. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It's a basic term, zone turn or man turn. Give Geno Smith credit on the zone turn. He threw the ball to the outside. And really, he threw the ball out of bounds, and DK Metcalf still able to go get it. Another example of an attempted fade to DK. This one's on a 3rd and 10. Ends up being incomplete. I think it's second quarter here. I could be wrong. Man turn, because his back is to the quarterback. Ball is already out from Geno Smith. Face and chest oriented towards the receiver and the sideline. So, again, man turn. Ball thrown as an actual back shoulder fade against man. Carlton Davis III trying to challenge it, goes down as an incomplete pass. Those are the types of routes that you're generally getting because you're playing so much man. In some cases, you'd like to see both guys, especially Arnold, be a little bit more smooth and how they're defending it, connected. I think off man, and I'll talk about this here in a couple of minutes. I think off man would be helpful at times for both of those guys as a changeup. I don't know what percentage they play press man. I don't know what percentage they play off man. It seems like a whole heck of a lot of press man to me. They're certainly both athletic enough to get the job done. You have some good film. You have some bad film as well so far, particularly from Arnold. There's a lot of penalties there. Another illustration of press man. This is Carlton Davis III against Marvin Harrison Jr. Up top, you also have Arnold, I think, against Wilson. Ends up being an incomplete pass. You do get a penalty on Josh Pascal on this one that gives Arizona the first down. I think it's an unnecessary roughness. So both of these guys are capable of keeping up with the receivers from a speed standpoint. Ball is in the air. Free safety a little bit late. Again, I don't want to say it's a prayer, but it's definitely a ball that is thrown up for grabs from a 50-50 standpoint. Or if you're, an Arizona Cardinals coach or player, they don't consider it a 50-50. They probably consider it 70-30 in their favor. All right, so if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see again, what I thought was for 2 minutes, I'll give you a window to ask questions. If not, I'll talk through some of the observations that I've got. And again, there's a little bit of a delay for you guys on your end. I'm not sure why the delay is so significant. Normally, I try to set it up as like a 6 or 8 second delay. It looks like it's about 30 seconds. So overall, it's effective. I think part of the winning formula for the Lions is to stop the run, dominate it, and they are. I think they're third in the NFL at rushing yards per game allowed, 90 yards per game, if I remember correctly. Playing a lot less zone than I would have predicted. I thought they would be a little bit more balanced. I thought that they would be in the 70-30 range. And mentally, for me right now, it feels like 85-15. That's probably way off. That's just the way that it feels going through all the film. I think I had about 68 or 70 coverage snaps that I tried to categorize and then whittle down to what I wanted to show you guys today. I'm not done. That was just a press man situation. And then we'll show you some off man, whereby it kind of gives Arnold and Davis a little bit more space to read and maybe even see the quarterback throw the football. Whereas versus in press man, their back is turned. Contra, what's up, man? You think they can get to a top 10 pass defense, or you're asking are you asking can they, or you would just like to see that? I'm not sure they can. From where they are right now, I think the defense can improve. I think they have the talent. If Marcus Davenport and Derek Barnes were there, I think they have the overall talent to be a top 6 or 8 defense at their ceiling, maybe even better. As far as a pass defense, look, you're going to stop the run. So because you're going to stop the run, you're going to see more passes. This sounds like a very generalized statement, but just by the sheer nature of how many pass plays you're going to confront or going to confront you, I think you're going to give up more yards. So I think it's important to note that while there is 1,100 yards allowed, there's only 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. The 11 penalties, I think, are in some ways more alarming than the 1,100 yards. I think in the next 5 or 6 games, we would like to see, and you as Lions fans would like to see them only have 3 or 4 or maybe 5 defensive penalties that are pass interference or holds in this next setup chunk of games. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. All right, so off man, and you're going to see that I think Davis and Arnold react well to these things. It happens to be a completion to DK Metcalf. Geno Smith, I think, makes a nice throw. Obviously, Jack Campbell with a big hit forces the fumble on DK Metcalf, who's had some difficulty putting the ball on the ground. But you have to give credit to Jack Campbell for being big enough, strong enough, and explosive enough to be able to finish that play and dislodge the football from DK Metcalf. Contra, I agree. They could get to close to a top 10 pass defense. I'm not sure where they are now. In my brain, I'm thinking they're somewhere in the 16-18 range, but just because of the pass interference and hold penalties. So off man, and DK is going to run a slant. You can see Geno Smith already throwing the football. Carlton Davis III trying to drive on it. Ball placement is good. and he's a little bit on the backside shoulder, so unable to make a pass defense or get the ball out of there. Jack Campbell and those guys took care of it. The point is, off man allows them to see the route and break down on it. I'm not saying that that's what they should run 80% of the time, but there is some film that exists, particularly from the Seattle game, of those guys responding well to it. 2nd and 8, off man again, arriving maybe a little bit early, number 1. Number 2, yes, the ball was thrown on the back hip of DK Metcalf. Part of that is because Geno Smith is kind of sliding to his right when he makes the throw. It just gives Arnold and Davis a better opportunity to see what the route is and then break on it or adjust it. Or if it's a vertical, adjust and get into their back pedal. Focusing mainly on the outside corner coverage here because yesterday, like I said, I did a video on Amik Robertson. If you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and consider doing so after this video finishes. So this is going to be to the top side. Arnold against a speed out. It's a high throw. It looks intentionally high, if you ask me. Arnold, from that alignment, can probably, the Lions can probably hide their coverage a little better versus this down here where you're pretty much telling the offense what you're going to get from a press man perspective. And look, Brian Branch is really good at this, especially against tight ends. I think Carlton Davis III played a lot of man with the Bucs, so he's competent. He's capable at it. He has moments where he's in really tight coverage. I think you put those guys they're in less stressful positions, Davis and Arnold, when they're playing a little bit of off man. Very rarely seen zone, and in fact, I think at times because they play so much man, their reaction when a zone play gets extended can be inconsistent. So I'll display what I mean in a moment when you see a scramble by Baker Mayfield in the Week 2 win in Detroit. So zone up to the top side, Carlton Davis back to the sideline, chest oriented towards the middle of the field, face mask looking at the quarterback, just not breaking quick enough here at all. There has been times where Davis has been like a half a step late in reacting, and that half a step late reaction when he puts his foot in the ground ends up being a step or a step and a half away when the ball arrives. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Another example of zone, and I think you get a really nice reaction down here by Arnold. I'm interested in his reactions in zone if I was able to do a Terrion Arnold video. Hopefully he plays real well this week against the Cowboys, and I can check it out. Look at him taking away this route here. This is a 1st and 10 in the third quarter. Yes, Noah Fant is sitting in the flats, but Arnold's got great instincts, if you ask me, especially in zone. And that's why I think off man is an interesting idea from what I've seen of Carlton Davis III. He also reacts really well in off man. So I would like to see a little bit more zone and off man implemented. It doesn't mean that they need to wholesale change the defense. They're not going to do that. Aaron Glenn is pretty much going to be who he is, in my opinion. There's a 3rd down against the Seahawks in Week 4. Zone concept. This is what you want when it's 3rd and 8, when it's 3rd and 7, or 3rd and 11 like this one is. You want to play zone, have a completion underneath, and then come downhill and make the tackle. Glenn, so far in a lot of these 3rd down situations, he's used zone more on 3rd down, but oftentimes on 1st down, he is playing a ton of man, trying to get pressure, and so far I just don't feel like the pass rush. Well, if Onwuzurike is on the field and Aleem McNeil is on the field for a lot of snaps and Aiden Hutchinson, I feel confident that those guys will get to the quarterback. The other side edge rusher at this point is a difficult proposition to say what exactly you're going to get on a week-by-week basis. Last iteration or example of zone, and then we'll get to some of the play of the safeties, Branch and Arnold. So Carlton Davis III played a lot of man in Tampa, and you're playing a lot of man this year. Watch what happens as this play develops. It's a 3rd and 4. Watch what happens as this develops. Davis locks up man, which all zone does at some point become man. You also get a defender locking up here in man. The problem is, because it was zone, that entire side of the field is vacated. Baker Mayfield scrambles for 11 yards. Yes, I think Malcolm Rodriguez needs to do a better job trying to make that tackle. Don't focus on that for a moment. Focus on the reaction of certain players when the play breaks down. I'm not saying that this is wrong, and I'm not saying that locking up man on the running back by Anzalone is wrong either. It's just not consistent with the other reactions you get. Usually, if that's your rule, then your linebackers who are on the hash, their rule is secondary contain. And in this case, Rodriguez is there way too late. He's reacting like it's zone because it is, but Davis and Anzalone are reacting like it's man or zone that became man, which is also true. No one is wrong. It's just consistency of reaction. And because they're playing so little zone, I wonder if the reactions on scrambled or unsettled situations are going to continue to be inconsistent. Let me know if I explain that in a way that makes any sense at all. Now we'll get to some film about Brian Branch, but let me pause for a moment. If you have a question, again, I'm trying to initiate some engagement, number one. Number two, also be a little bit more cognizant or aware of the fact that I go through the coverages sometimes too quick and maybe only explain things once or twice and perhaps need to pause. Additional to that, you guys have about a 30-second delay. So if you have any questions about what I just talked about with zone defense and how the players react, there's no hard-coded or there's no one way to react once the quarterback breaks contain. We would teach that it becomes man. Go ahead and lock up, and my inside linebackers now have whatever inside linebackers is to the flow side, they now have secondary contain. Other people do it in a different manner. Some people just stay in zone. They say stay in zone, stay in your area, don't vacate space. In any case, that play to me stuck out. Of course, on the very next play, Baker Mayfield scored on the designed empty quarterback draw. So that was a big scramble for him to convert that 3rd and 4. I think late in the third quarter, I could be wrong. Roby or Robbie, I agree. That's a great point. Most consistent defense, absolutely, by far. I agree. I still think that the standard is higher for what's there from a talent standpoint. You can let me know if you disagree. I think that the expectations should be higher, I guess is what I'm saying. And yes, the defense did start playing better the second half of last year. Hopefully when Melifonwu comes back, they can even be a little bit more unpredictable at times. With some of the blitzes they used late in the year last year with Melifonwu and Branch, I thought were game-changing as well. Keith, that's an interesting perspective. Year one of this defense. You mean because of the talent level that's there that you actually have. I think you touched on it. 11 capable players in position. I'll accept that. I still think that the expectations should be higher, and there's no reason to settle for 20 points per game when, in my opinion, the talent is there to get down to 17 or 18, 18 and a half. All right, Branch, I think, has played spectacular in 2024. I don't know what the thought process is or what people say about him. This is a completion to Cooper Kupp for 5 yards on a speed out on a 1st and 10. I think it's a spectacular play, nearly a pass defense for Branch. He's done this, I think, 3 times so far this year. I love his commitment, his identification. He's going to do the same thing here, by the way. He's going to drive and get a pass defense on an incompletion to Cooper Kupp. Now, Contra, I think it depends. I mean, I wouldn't want Kirby Joseph in man too often. I think Branch has got the coverage skills of a nickel corner, so I trust him against pretty much anyone. I don't know about you. Robertson is, in fact, a slot corner, so he's a different animal. Technically, some people call it a nickel safety. It's a beautiful play by Branch, obviously, on a 1st and 10. Another out by Cooper Kupp. Dropped interception. We can focus on the drop if we want. I mean, I think Brian Branch got really good hands. I'm going to focus on what he does to Matt Stafford to allow himself to be in this position. Stafford was initially looking in the middle of the field, and so you are going to get, I think it's Kupp on a dig route from the top side of the screen. Branch has played the hook area, so basically between the hash and the top of the numbers, and then he just sees Stafford getting ready to pull the pin on a grenade, identifies the route, gets underneath of it, almost has there was three, I thought, if in that game, situations where Stafford threw the ball and it ended up in guys' hands and didn't end up being an interception. I think Branch is playing at a really high level, whether it's man, whether it's zone, against the run as well. Really good to see him back this week. Seahawks fans didn't really understand it, that missing Brian Branch was like missing their best player on defense, because Branch is either their best player. He's either 1A or 1B, along with Aiden Hutchinson, obviously. This one actually is intercepted. It's a beautiful job of playing the low hole dropper in man free, understanding the routes that are happening outside of him, number one. Number two, also keying or keeping eyes on the quarterback. Keith, I mean, I can't disagree with you, that I think that they will play better as the season goes on. I would agree. They just need to be healthy and somehow get some pass rush generated from the side opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So you're getting Godwin underneath. Actually talked about this play in my Robertson video. And then Evans over the top. Branch perfectly fits between them. Leaping interception, great hands. Cool moment. It's on a 3rd and 7 to get the ball back for his defense. And I think this is spectacular coverage and timing. I think this is the last route that I'll go over with Branch. And then we'll talk about Kirby Joseph. And if you guys have any more questions, get ready to queue them up. Brilliant job of being all over. I think it's Greg Dortch, who goes off on a vertical stem at first after the motion, and looks like he's got some space. Branch has got great recovery, and he understands where to go while keeping an eye on the ball. He's got great body, I think we call it proprioceptive awareness, meaning he can continue to run on the path he wants to run on while looking back at the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, Max Crosby would be ridiculous. You certainly got a lot of cap space, but the Raiders, if they were to get rid of Max Crosby, I think you're looking at giving up a lot in order to make that happen. Beautiful play by Branch here against Arizona. I think he played really well that game. Ends up getting a pass defensed. Kyler Murray's trying to get the ball to Dortch on a scrambled situation. Arnold has locked up. Branch and Joseph kind of run into each other. I think one or both of them was kind of shaken up after the play. Incredible effort by Branch. He's playing well as a nickel defender. He's playing well in the box. He's playing, I think, really good as a half-field safety as well. I have no idea what the narrative is out there about him, but the film shows a guy who is still doing things he did last year when put in that position, but is also playing well as a safety at the same time. Some interceptions by Joseph, who's obviously very sticky hands, heavy on the quarterback reads, gets in the windows, in this case picks off Stafford. A really poor decision by Matt Stafford to throw that football over the middle. You just can't do these things with Kirby Joseph around. He's always lurking on the quarterback. I think he's one of the X factors for the defense in any game where they play against a high-level quarterback, because he's so heavy on the quarterback's eyes, on where a quarterback like Matt Stafford is looking. He can get involved in plays where maybe he shouldn't, because he's able to stay on the quarterback and basically react to him in a way that other guys are not, because you're playing so much man. They can't react to the quarterback because they're focused on their player, the guy they're guarding. They're focused on the receiver or the tight end, the guy they're guarding. Underthrown ball by Kyler Murray, don't get me wrong, but I'm still not sure how or where this ball is going to be thrown such that Kirby Joseph can't make a play on it. I do think the Lions' defense is vastly improved from last year. I mean, that's obvious. Having said that, I would like to see them be a little bit more versatile in coverage situations, a little bit more able to adapt to what the offense shows. Show man and then play zone. Show man and then play some kind of combo coverage. Perhaps I'm oversimplifying the case here, and that's fine if you want to let me know in the comment section that you think I am. But when I watched the film, I got, like I said, 58 or 60 plays. I was shocked at how many of them were man. My guess is probably 46 or 48 of them were man. Really high percentage. In my mind, it's 80% man. It's probably nowhere near that. Probably more realistically, more so closer to 62, 64, somewhere in that area. if you have access to that, or you found it on the internet somewhere, let me know in the comment section. I have seen the numbers from other people, what they call man and what they call zone, but I'm not sure that I trust some of those sites to really give us accurate information. So I'm not going to quote them. I'm only going to go off the actual film that I've watched. And again, there's a margin for error associated with that. Going into the Cowboys game, I think is going to be challenging to deal with CeeDee Lamb. The thing that's interesting, and the Ravens just got done playing the Cowboys in week 3, obviously, is the Cowboys can't run the football. They cannot run the football, and that is a recipe for trouble against Detroit. The problem for the Lions is you're going to be in so much coverage situations. Probably, I'd say 16 to 18, maybe even 20% more coverage situations in this game than a normal football game, because you're not just going to stop the run, you're going to shut it down completely. They're going to be in throw mode probably mid to late second quarter. And if I'm wrong, then credit to the Dallas Cowboys for being able to run the football better than they have so far this year. They really have nothing to offer in the run game at all. I would expect Detroit to shut that down, and for this to become a game where Dak Prescott throws the ball a ton, and Aaron Glenn's job and the outside corners, the nickel DBs and safeties, their job is to be in good coverage relationship, but also not just be so predictable pre-snap that Dak knows exactly where he's going to go with the football on any given play. If you guys enjoy the stream, please let me know. I originally wanted to do this on Wednesday night, but I've got 2 other videos to try to get out for this week. A Lions-Cowboys preview, a Ravens-Washington preview, which is a huge matchup here in the Mid-Atlantic region, Baltimore and Washington, D.C. being so close together, number 1. Number 2, Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson having some somewhat similar play styles. And then I'll tell you this, watching Washington's offense, they use so many of the same exact plays the Ravens do. It's borderline uncanny. I actually end up laughing, like saying, oh, I recognize this play immediately. So I have a lot to do, so I pushed this stream up to Wednesday morning. Forgive me for that if it was too early for people that listen in later on. But I thank you guys for checking out the stream. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section, not just the chat, which is available right now. I mean the comment section that'll be there after the video posts up in a couple of minutes. If you've ever considered supporting me on Patreon, it's $4.99 a month. You do get access to the Lions Discord, which is a private community for Lions fans whereby we can discuss gameplay, technique, injuries, scheme, or what have you, before, during, and after games. It's a secure community, so you don't have to deal with trolls or anything like that. I offer that for $4.99 to Lions fans, as well as access to an online film database. The reason why I'm giving you this is because I enjoy the interaction with Lions fans just as much as I enjoy the interaction with Ravens fans, because both teams are very good, and hopefully we're on a collision course once again. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. Of course, it's safe for work film study, absolutely. And then if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media so other Lions fans can enjoy it as well. Appreciate you guys' time.